Thanks to the global pandemic, seeing a movie theater in a traditional setting is no longer a thing. Remember when you can go to the movie theaters with a group of friends? Me neither. Like this video if you've ever sinned in the back of a movie theater. I'm Mike Dangerous, and this is Talking Shots. Mortal Kombat, without a doubt, is one of our favorite franchises here on Talking Shots. Just a couple weeks ago, we took a look at the original Mortal Kombat movie from the grand old 90s. Then Scorpion fucking explodes. With the insanity that has been 2021, we've been gifted so many interesting movies as of late. Ed Boon blessed us this year with something that I'm surprised took this long to make, a new Mortal Kombat movie. Today we're going to deep dive into what is one of the funniest movies of the year. We're going to ask ourselves, is this movie really bad? And can something even really be bad if you had fun watching it? It's kind of crazy to see just how far we've come as far as video game movies are concerned. I mean, what was it, like 15 years ago when every studio was hiring Uwe Boll to just shit on all your favorite video game franchises? We're pretty spoiled now. I mean, we have movies like Sonic the Hedgehog and Detective Pikachu, which have established standards. By no means important cinema, but watchable movies nonetheless. But this wasn't always the case. You go back to when we were kids, and a little bit before that, a movie would come out and every kid would be like, wait a minute, that's the game I play. And then they go bug their mom to buy them tickets so they can see the Super Mario Brothers movie, where Mario has to motorboat a woman, and the woman is supposed to be the fish. Also, Dennis Hopper is the best thing. Monkey! So you'd have to forgive us if we're a bit cynical about video game movies, particularly movies about fighting games. Just like we previously covered in our Tekken video, fighting games are notorious for having the most batshit insane storylines of any video game. Look, we're not even going to get into the Mortal Kombat lore in this video more than we need to, because even NetherRealm knows just how insane their storyline is and basically retconned the entire series with the most recent games. Now, if you're a fan of the games and you know the story, then you're definitely going to find some Easter eggs that are going to make this movie a little bit better for you. This movie does not shy away from fan service. And that's the first thing I want to talk about. This movie does cater to casual fans of Mortal Kombat, and it gives us some really good scenes. It also gives us some bad ones, and a lot of things in between that I don't even know who this is supposed to be for. And let's start with the good, because this movie does do a lot of things that could have easily been botched. For the most part, they deliver on what you would expect from a Mortal Kombat movie. Means a lot of violence and gore. I thought the fight scenes, which were a majority of the movie, were all great and very well choreographed. I immediately got Yojimbo vibes from this movie as soon as the opening went by. I found myself really glued to a lot of the action scenes that went on in this movie. The best fight in the movie, hands down, is the climactic fight between Sub-Zero and Scorpion, with a blend of cool choreography, game references, and visual effects all mesh into a visually stunning scene that will leave many martial arts fans satisfied. The second most notable fight, and probably my favorite, is the Kano versus Reptile fight. The entire scene itself is so fucking good at setting up everything else for this movie. These scenes introduce the audience into just how otherworldly Outworld is.
Oh my god, these guys have invisible Komodo dragons that want to square up?
We also get a full view into just how crazy and psychotic Kano is. I'll get into Kano in a sec, but this is one moment where environment, choreography, and story lead to nothing but satisfaction for the audience. I was smiling with Kano as he did the thing he does in the video games. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. I'm sure by now you've seen all the memes. Kano definitely stole the show in this movie. Constantly making light of how ridiculous the Mortal Kombat universe is, Kano is one of the most relatable characters in this whole movie. They also immediately do a great job at establishing him as a threat with that beautiful moment of fan service that I mentioned earlier. To be honest, it gets to the point where if Kano's not in the scene, you begin asking yourself, where's Kano? Which leads to my first criticism of the movie. Everyone else in this movie kind of sucks. Nearly every character in this movie is flat and boring. So much so that it hurts some of the plot points that the movie's trying to develop. Let's start with Cole, our protagonist. I don't know who Cole is. Is he in the games? I don't even think he's in the games, dude. Also, his name is Cole. Like, it's just a regular dude. I spent an hour and 50 minutes watching this motherfucker roll around on my screen, and all I learned about him is that he really loves his family and that he sucks at fighting. Literally. That's his entire character. And not even in like the cool shonen anime kind of way. Now, I can understand why they wrote a character like Cole into this movie. He acts basically as an audience surrogate. He gets introduced to the world the same way that we do. Except this doesn't really work. Not only is he poorly written with some questionable motivations, but the performance also isn't that great. And that may just be a couple bad directorial choices here. Even when the story allows for some emotional development for Cole, we're kind of left with this confused action hero face that we've seen all the time from action movies with less than stellar protagonist performances. It's hilarious. The other most memorable aspect of Cole is that he gets his ass kicked constantly in this movie. Like, this motherfucker's supposed to be an MMA champion, and yet he's getting bodied free every other minute in this movie. Like, I, as an audience member, don't really have reason to empathize with him other than that the movie tells me that I should. Like, he's a nice guy, I guess? But, like, give me something. Give me some witty banter. Maybe some of Kano's one-liners could have worked here. I don't know, just something. I don't like watching this boy. Unfortunately, Cole isn't the only one that suffers from being pretty one-dimensional. Jax and Sonia, who are two Mortal Kombat mainstays, are given their own arcs, and they're just as boring. Jax is pretty important in particular because he loses both arms to Sub-Zero, and that basically is his arc for the whole movie. It does a great job in setting up Sub-Zero as a villain, but it does nothing for Jax. Nothing is ever really explored, and the character kind of falls flat after that inciting incident kind of happens. Instead, we get sad Jax trying to pick up a rock. He crushes some dude's head, though. That's lit. So that's really kind of what the film leaves you with. Just a bunch of characters pulled from a video game having a bunch of cool fight scenes. And that's where the divisiveness comes in. Those who don't really care and just want to see a bunch of cool fights, and those who wanted a movie that stays pretty true to the Mortal Kombat lore, as long and ridiculous as that may be. And at its worst, it's a nonsense-based fighting movie aimed at the general American audience. And you know what? Mortal Kombat 2021 does a great job at that. I love this movie. This movie is nothing but fun, stupidity, and action, and that basically describes the Mortal Kombat games. But if we're being honest, Mortal Kombat 2021 is not a good movie. I mean, if we're keeping score, this movie ticks off all the boxes for every cinema sin you can imagine. This movie has so many plot holes, you're surprised that Shia LaBeouf isn't in it. Moments that go well past the threshold for stupidity. Realistically, if we had to sit there and academically describe whether or not this movie is good, it wouldn't be a very long discussion. But this movie does what you'd expect very well. It's a fun action movie that's big and stupid, and it doesn't try to be anything else, and that's this movie's greatest strength. You know, I found myself glued to the screen, waiting to see how Cole would get bopped next. It definitely looks the part, and for a movie about nonsensical, ridiculous, gory violence, it does its job well. Sometimes movies can just be dumb popcorn entertainment, and something you throw on to laugh at or even enjoy with friends. If a movie is technically bad, but you had a good time watching it, is the movie as bad as you initially thought? And I'm not saying this movie stoops to the level of like The Room or Birdemic, but it definitely isn't mediocrity or boring in ways that a lot of video game movies from the early 2000s were. If your barometer for a good movie is whether or not you had fun, then by that metric, Mortal Kombat's a grand old time. Also, let's be real, I'm sure most of us were wilding the out for a lot of the soundtrack for this movie. Even though I knew it was coming, I still lost my shit when I heard the original Mortal Kombat theme during Sub-Zero and Scorpion's fight. Even some of the egregious fan service, like Scorpion saying "get over here," which we all knew was going to happen, but let's keep it real, we all would have been mad if it wasn't there. Stuff like that is enough to keep you going. It's not exactly masterpiece cinema, but from start to finish, Mortal Kombat 2021 will keep your attention throughout. And for some, that's more than enough. So what do you think? What did you think of the new Mortal Kombat movie from this year? Do you think it compares to the original movie? Do you think it's better? Do you think it's worse? You can check out another video of ours over here, somewhere in this corner. If you like what we do, you can support us on Patreon, where we have a Discord server. You can come and hang out. Sometimes we do some private streams. It's lit. As always, don't forget to like, comment, favorite, and subscribe. I'm your boy Mike Dangerous, and this is Talking Shots.